Tucked away on a 35-acre estate in San Antonio, Texas, a majestic property hides beneath the shade of towering century-old oak trees. With its picturesque landscape and elegant Greek Revival manor, it has long served as a romantic venue for weddings and other celebrations. But beneath the surface of its charm lies a chilling history that has drawn in not only happy couples, but also those seeking something far more unsettling. The land itself carries a dark past, dating back to the mid-1800s. 50 years before the house was constructed, the ground was stained with blood during the Battle of Salado in 1842. 60 Mexican soldiers lost their lives here, and it's said that the echoes of this violent conflict still resonate today. Visitors have reported strange sightings, shadowy figures in military uniforms roaming the grounds, vanishing into the night as quickly as they appear. Some believe these are the restless spirits of the fallen soldiers, forever tied to the battlefield where they met their tragic end. As the manor rose from the ashes of the past, it became home to some of San Antonio's most notable families. The Ripsteins and Mahlers were among the first to live in the grand estate, their lives intertwined with the land that held such a violent history. But the peace they sought may have been an illusion, as tales of paranormal activity began to surface. Whispers of strange occurrences, faint voices in empty rooms, the feeling of being watched, have followed the manor's history like a shadow. Later, the home became occupied by the Holbrook and Woods families. Sisters Catherine Holbrook and Blanche Woods, along with their husbands and children, brought their family's presence into the already storied property. Catherine's husband met his end in the house, and though the families eventually moved on, many believe their spirits never left. Muffled conversations in the middle of the night, sudden gusts of icy air, and the unmistakable sound of footsteps have led many to believe that these past residents still wander the halls, unable to sever their connection to the home. Though the manor itself has its share of supernatural rumors, it's the barn behind the main house that has truly earned a reputation for being haunted. Once part of a working dairy farm, the barn is believed to be the most spiritually active building on the estate. It served as a backdrop for many lives and perhaps a few deaths. Paranormal investigators have reported hearing voices, feeling unseen presences, and witnessing the apparition of shadowy figures flitting in and out of sight. Visitors to the barn often describe an overwhelming feeling of dread, as if they're being watched by something not quite human. Today, the house belongs to Joanne Rivera, who lives there with her family. Despite its eerie history, the family has embraced the inn's paranormal reputation. Joanne frequently partners with local ghost tour companies and has invited paranormal investigators into her home over the years. She acknowledges that strange things happen here, though she's become accustomed to the hauntings. Rivera is also an avid collector of porcelain dolls, and some speculate that one particular doll in her collection may be the cause of the heightened activity in the house. Described as having cold, lifelike eyes, the doll is said to exude an unsettling aura. Paranormal experts believe it might be a conduit, holding on to the energy of the many spirits that seem to call this place home. Over the years, countless visitors have had their own experiences, adding to the ever-growing lore of the property. Apparitions in period clothing, sudden bursts of cold air, and unexplainable noises have all been documented. One visitor described waking up in the dead of night to find a figure standing at the foot of their bed, staring silently before vanishing. Others have heard faint whispers or felt invisible hands brush against their skin, leaving them with a sense of unease long after they've left the house. The barn, however, is where the most spine-chilling encounters have taken place. Guests have heard footsteps echoing through the empty space, while others report being pushed or touched by unseen forces. Photographs taken inside the barn often reveal strange orbs of light or shadowy figures lurking in the background. For many, it feels as though the barn holds onto the energy of those who once lived, and perhaps died, within its walls. Adding to the mystery is the porcelain doll Rivera keeps among her collection. Its pale face and glassy eyes have become infamous among paranormal investigators, who suspect it could be amplifying the hauntings. Some claim the doll has moved on its own, while others have reported a palpable sense of fear whenever they come near it. Though Rivera brushes off the rumors, the doll's eerie presence continues to draw attention from those hoping to uncover the truth behind the property's haunted reputation. Whether it's the lingering spirits of fallen soldiers, the ghostly residents of past families, or the strange pull of the porcelain doll, one thing is certain: this is no ordinary home. Visitors and ghost hunters alike are drawn to the mysterious energy that seems to pulse through every room, hoping to catch a glimpse of the supernatural. The property's long history of life, death, and the paranormal has cemented its place as a chilling destination where the past refuses to stay buried. For those brave enough to visit, the estate offers more than just picturesque views. It's a gateway to the unknown, where the veil between the living and the dead seems unusually thin. Soden House in Los Angeles, California, is a looming presence on Franklin Avenue, sitting at the base of the Los Feliz foothills. Its imposing Mayan revival architecture, designed by Frank Lloyd Wright Jr., evokes the eerie grandeur of a temple or ancient tomb. While its block-like facade and cavernous design are fascinating, the real intrigue surrounding Soden House lies not in its architecture, but in the dark history tied to its walls. Built in 1926 for photographer John Soden and his family, the house became a hub for Hollywood's elite, hosting lavish bohemian parties. It was a place of artistic expression, creativity, and indulgence, until 1945 when Dr. George Hodel, a man whose name would later become infamous, moved in. What followed marked the house not just as an architectural wonder, but as a potential crime scene for one of America's most notorious cold cases, the murder of Elizabeth Short, better known as the Black Dahlia. Dr. Hodel, who was already a successful and well-connected physician, quickly became a prime suspect in the brutal and unsolved murder of Short by 1950. Many believe the horrific crime was committed inside the very walls of Soden House. Though the case remains officially unsolved, true crime enthusiasts and investigators alike have long speculated that the mansion was the setting for Short's final gruesome moments. The ominous, cave-like design of the house only adds to the unsettling air of mystery that surrounds it. The home's connection to the Black Dahlia case isn't its only brush with darkness. After Dr. Hodel left the house, it went through periods of abandonment, further deepening its reputation as a place where evil seemed to fester. In the 1970s, the Hodel family housekeeper returned to visit the mansion and informed its then owner, "This is a house of evil." Her chilling declaration echoed what many had already begun to suspect, that something sinister lingered within. Edmund Teskey, an artist and photographer who had once frequented the house, famously pointed at the structure and called it an evil place, claiming that not just murders but unspeakable acts of darkness had taken place there. Artists, philosophers, accountants, and politicians all played and paid there, he said, implying that the parties of the Hollywood elite may have hidden deeper, more dangerous secrets. It wasn't just a place of decadence, but one where lives were destroyed and, for some, lost. Tales of paranormal encounters have only fueled the house's eerie reputation. Dr. Hodel's daughter, Tamar, once ventured into the basement of the mansion and claimed to have seen the ghostly figure of a young woman. This haunting revelation only added another layer to the mansion's mystery. Decades later, in 2016, when paranormal investigator Zach Bagans from Ghost Adventures visited the house, Tamar's daughter, Fauna, accompanied him. To her horror, she claimed to see the same spirit her mother had witnessed all those years ago, confirming the chilling legacy of Soden House's hauntings. Despite its beautiful design, Soden House has become synonymous with fear and unease. Its walls have witnessed history, but perhaps more disturbingly, they may have witnessed unimaginable horrors. Those who visit or pass by often speak of an overwhelming sense of dread, a feeling that the house is more than just bricks and mortar, that it's a living, breathing entity, carrying the weight of the secrets and sins of its past inhabitants. Whether it's the connection to the Black Dahlia case or the alleged paranormal activity, the house seems to refuse to let go of its dark history, drawing in those curious and brave enough to uncover its mysteries. On a quiet night in Villisca, Iowa, on June 10, 1912, the peaceful town was shattered by an unimaginable horror. Inside the home of Josiah and Sarah Moore, A gruesome crime unfolded that would leave an indelible mark on the town and fuel chilling legends for over a century. The Moore family, along with two young friends who were spending the night, were brutally murdered in their sleep by an unknown assailant wielding an axe. 8 lives were snuffed out in the dead of night, and despite investigations and numerous theories, the crime remains unsolved to this day. The home where these horrific murders took place, now known as the Villisca Axe Murder House, has since gained a reputation as one of the most haunted locations in the country. The tragic history seeps into the walls, and it's as if the echoes of that fateful night refuse to fade. Paranormal enthusiasts and curious guests are drawn to the house, each hoping to catch a glimpse of the supernatural or to experience something otherworldly. For those brave enough to stay the night, the price is steep, over $400 for an overnight visit. But the stories of what happens inside make it an irresistible lure for ghost hunters. The house seems alive with the past. Guests report hearing the eerie sound of children's laughter, though no one else is there. Lamps have been seen falling without explanation, ladders moving on their own, and objects inexplicably flying across rooms. These strange phenomena have caused many tours to be abruptly cut short, with even the most hardened skeptics walking out as firm believers in the paranormal. According to the Villisca Axe Murder House's website, there is something undeniably sinister about the place, a sense that the spirits of the victims may still linger, trapped in the nightmare that claimed their lives. In one particularly terrifying incident, in 2014, a paranormal investigator, overwhelmed by the intense energy inside the house, stabbed himself after spending the night. His unsettling act only fueled the legend of the house's dark influence. Those who come in contact with the home often leave changed, their skepticism giving way to a deep belief in the otherworldly forces that seem to inhabit the place. Even now, the house continues to attract attention. In October 2023, U.S. Ghost Adventures, a company known for hosting overnight stays in historic and allegedly haunted locations across the country, entered into a contract to purchase the Villisca Axe Murder House. With this new chapter in the house's story, more people than ever are expected to come face to face with the mystery and the ghosts that still haunt its halls. The dark history of the Villisca Axe Murder House ensures that it will remain a place where the line between the living and the dead blurs, a constant reminder of the unsolved horror that forever changed the quiet town of Villisca. In 2011, LaToya Ammons and her family moved into what seemed like a typical, modest, single-story home in Gary, Indiana. But soon after settling in, the family found themselves at the center of what would become one of the most terrifying and publicized cases of demonic possession in modern history. What started as minor disturbances quickly escalated into a full-blown nightmare, leading to one of the most infamous residential demon infestations since the Amityville Horror. Within months of moving in, LaToya, her mother, and her 3 young children began experiencing strange and terrifying events. Footsteps echoed through empty rooms, unexplainable shadows moved across the walls, and the children's behavior took a dark and disturbing turn. By the time LaToya rushed her family to the emergency room in a desperate attempt to find help, the situation had spiraled into something far beyond anyone's control. Doctors, nurses, and social workers all watched in horror as the children exhibited signs of possession. Eyes rolling back, deep voices coming from their small frames, and violent outbursts with no memory of the events afterward. As the situation grew more dire, the family's claims attracted the attention of a wide range of professionals. Police officers, hospital staff, local church members, and officials from the Department of Child Protective Services were called in to investigate what was happening inside the home. The accounts from witnesses were chilling. Some swore they saw objects moving on their own, heard disembodied voices, and even witnessed the children walking backward up walls. Yet, while half of the witnesses believed something truly supernatural was taking place, the other half remained skeptical, chalking it up to psychological issues or mass hysteria. This haunting case quickly became national news, with comparisons to the infamous Amityville house that had captivated America decades earlier. As the media frenzy grew, So did the fear surrounding the Ammons house. Paranormal investigators and enthusiasts flocked to the property, eager to uncover the truth behind the sinister occurrences. For the Ammons family, however, the nightmare finally came to an end when they moved away from Gary to Indianapolis, leaving behind the dark entity that seemed to have taken over their lives. Peace returned to their family, but the story of the house refused to fade into obscurity. In 2014, Zach Bagans, the host of Ghost Adventures and a well-known paranormal investigator, purchased the property from Ammons' landlord. Hoping to capture evidence of the hauntings, Bagans spent time filming inside the house, documenting everything from strange sounds to unexplained phenomena. Despite his initial goal of turning the footage into a documentary, Bagans ultimately decided to demolish the house, convinced that something evil lingered there that shouldn't be disturbed any longer. Yet even with the house gone, the chilling legacy of the Ammons case continues to attract attention. In 2024, Oscar-nominated director Lee Daniels is set to release a film based on the story, The Deliverance, which will stream on Netflix. The film stars Stranger Things actor Caleb MacLachlan and promises to bring the horrifying events of the Ammons family's ordeal back into the spotlight, reigniting interest in the case that captivated and terrified so many. The Ammons house may no longer stand, but its story remains a haunting reminder that some places hold on to their darkness long after the walls come down. The Kasha House of Kaimuki in Honolulu, Hawaii, is a place where the supernatural and the sinister seem to have left an indelible mark. Its chilling reputation began in 1941 when the Honolulu Star published a disturbing account just months after the attack on Pearl Harbor. The police were called to the scene after hearing a woman's terrified screams. "She's trying to kill my children! She's trying to kill my children!" When they arrived, they found a mother, her son, and her 3 daughters in utter chaos, screaming and being flung around the room by an unseen force. There was no explanation for what had attacked them, no assailant, no intruder, just pure terror. But that was only the beginning. Decades later, in the 1970s, another family experienced something disturbingly similar in the same house, or perhaps in a nearby home, as the exact location has blurred over time. Once again, police officers responding to the scene witnessed something they couldn't explain: people being assaulted and tossed around by an invisible entity. These encounters added to the growing lore surrounding the house, leading many to believe that whatever haunted the property was not of this world. Theories have swirled around the origins of the malevolent presence that plagued the Kaimuki house. One of the most persistent is that of the Kasha, a shape-shifting demon from Japanese folklore. Said to devour the bodies of the dead or those nearing death, the Kasha is a creature capable of wreaking havoc and terrorizing anyone unlucky enough to cross its path. Others speculate that the haunting was the result of a restless spirit, possibly from a corpse buried long ago in the backyard. Whatever the cause, there was no denying that something dark lurked in or around that home. Even after the house was eventually torn down and replaced by modern condos, many believe the sinister energy lingers in the area. Locals claim the land itself remains haunted, with residents reporting strange sensations, cold spots, and an overwhelming feeling of unease. The Kasha House of Kaimuki may no longer physically exist, but its legacy of fear and the tales of its paranormal attacks continue to live on in whispers throughout the neighborhood. Some say you can still feel the dark presence if you stand on the ground where the house once stood, a reminder that some horrors refuse to be buried with time. In 1960, Patricia Montandon, a celebrated socialite and journalist, moved into a charming apartment on San Francisco's iconic crooked block of Lombard Street. For nearly 8 years, her life there seemed perfect. Montandon was known for hosting lavish parties with guests from all walks of life, including artists, writers, and intellectuals. But one evening in 1968, a seemingly harmless astrology-themed party became the turning point. Among her guests that night was a tarot card reader, whose odd behavior left everyone uneasy. What seemed like a strange encounter at the time turned out to be the beginning of something much darker. Not long after that night, the atmosphere inside Montandon's Russian Hill apartment shifted. Faint sounds of eerie laughter and distant music began to fill the air, always just out of reach, as if coming from the walls themselves. Cold drafts blew through the rooms, despite every door and window being securely locked. Then there were the footsteps, the unmistakable sound of someone walking through the apartment when no one was there. The playful, enchanting charm of her home quickly dissolved, replaced by an unsettling presence that refused to leave. But it wasn't just the invisible forces tormenting her. After the party, Montandon found herself the target of a series of inexplicable and alarming events. Her apartment was robbed. She was harassed by strangers who couldn't explain why they'd come after her. There were even hints of arson as a fire mysteriously broke out within her building, causing further damage. Worst of all, between 1968 and 1969, three of Montandon's closest friends, each of whom had lived in the apartment at different times, died prematurely under tragic circumstances. The events rattled Montandon deeply, pushing her to seek answers. Convinced that the tarot reader had cursed her apartment that fateful night, she embarked on a personal investigation to unravel the mystery behind the strange occurrences. In her memoir, The Intruders, she recounts how the series of hauntings and physical misfortunes seemed too coincidental, too sinister to dismiss as anything but the work of dark forces. Though she eventually left 1000 Lombard Street, the curse, or whatever it was, left a mark that haunted her for years. To this day, those who know the history of 1000 Lombard Street speak of it in hushed tones. The apartment remembered not just for its beautiful views of San Francisco, but for the chilling events that unfolded there, a place where the line between the ordinary and the supernatural was blurred in terrifying ways. Nicknamed Ackley House after its former residents, the classic Queen Anne Victorian stands proudly on the banks of the Hudson River, directly across from the famed Sleepy Hollow, New York. With its charming architecture and picturesque views, One Levada Place seems like any other beautiful home, until you step inside. The house is alive with the presence of friendly spirits who have roamed its halls for generations, creating an atmosphere that the matriarch of the Ackley family, Helen, embraced wholeheartedly. In fact, Helen was so taken by the spectral inhabitants that she penned an article about them for Reader's Digest, sharing the heartwarming tales of her ghostly roommates. The piece garnered national attention, turning the Ackley House into a hotspot for local ghost tours, attracting thrill seekers and the curious alike. But what started as a source of pride soon turned into a haunting complication when the family decided to sell the home in the late 1980s. As the Ackleys prepared for the sale, they found themselves embroiled in a legal battle with the Stambosky family, who claimed they weren't informed of the house's haunted reputation. The case, which would go down in history as the Ghostbusters ruling, caught the public's imagination and sparked debates about the ethics of disclosing paranormal activity when selling a home. In a surprising turn of events, the New York Supreme Court ruled that Ackley House was indeed haunted, allowing the buyers to back out of the sale while recovering half of their down payment. Though the court ruling brought an end to the Ackleys' ownership, the house continued to capture the public's fascination. Over the years, One Levada Place has hosted several celebrities, including musician Ingrid Michaelson, who have been drawn to its enchanting charm and spectral history. The echoes of laughter and the whispers of friendly spirits still linger within its walls, forever intertwining the living and the ethereal in a dance that has made Ackley House a true landmark of Nyack's haunted heritage. The Grand Estate of Grey Gardens, nestled in the exclusive Georgica Beach section of East Hampton, New York, boasts a rich and tumultuous history. Spanning 4 picturesque acres, the property was initially purchased by a wealthy couple in 1895, paving the way for the construction of the house in the early 1900s. By 1913, the estate found new life when it was acquired by the president of a coal company who, along with his wife, Anna Gilman Hill, imported ornate concrete walls from Spain to enclose the lush gardens. The name Grey Gardens was inspired by the muted hues of the dunes, the walls, and the sea mist that enveloped the area. In 1923, the home entered the realm of American royalty when it was sold to Edith Bouvier Beale, the aunt of Jackie Onassis Kennedy and Lee Radziwill. For a time, Grey Gardens was a symbol of elegance and high society. However, as fortunes turned and misfortunes mounted, the estate fell into disrepair. The once majestic mansion became a shadow of its former self, overtaken by cats, raccoons, and perhaps even whispers of otherworldly presences. The decline was particularly heartbreaking for Big Edie Beale and her daughter, Little Edie, who struggled to maintain the estate amidst financial hardships. Their poignant story was immortalized in the 1975 documentary by Albert and David Maysles, which captured the eccentricities and resilience of the Beales. Big Edie clung to Grey Gardens until her passing in 1977, leaving behind a legacy steeped in both beauty and melancholy. It is said that her spirit lingers within the walls of the estate, ever watchful over the home that once held her heart. In 1979, author and journalist Sally Quinn, famed for her column in the Washington Post, purchased Grey Gardens from Little Edie. Quinn quickly became a believer in the estate's ghostly inhabitants, claiming that she felt the presence of Big Edie watching over the property. With each creak of the floorboards and rustle of the curtains, the spirits of Grey Gardens seemed to weave their stories into the fabric of this enchanting yet haunting estate, ensuring that its captivating legacy lives on. The house at 805 W. Linden, Boise, Idaho is impossible to ignore. With its soot-streaked exterior, broken windows boarded up, and trash littering the yard, it has the unmistakable look of a place where something terrible happened. Standing like a haunted relic from another time, this craftsman-style home with its 2 stories and over 2,700 square feet holds a far darker past than its crumbling exterior suggests. Locals call it the Boise Murder House, but its more chilling nickname, the Chop Chop House, hints at the gruesome event that took place there more than 30 years ago. Behind those cracked windows and soot-blackened walls, a horrific crime unfolded, one that still lingers in the minds of Boise residents. The gruesome details of the murder earned the house its unsettling name, but the story goes beyond just a brutal homicide. Some say the house has never been the same since, that something sinister seeped into its very foundation the night of the murder, and that it has been cursed ever since. For those unfortunate enough to have lived in or near the house, especially those who rented rooms over the years, there's no denying the strange and eerie presence that seems to haunt the place, particularly the basement. It's not just a feeling of unease, but something much darker. Shadowy figures have been spotted slipping through the corners of the room, appearing and disappearing without explanation. The walls, too, seem to bear the weight of the house's bloody history, with some claiming to have seen a mysterious liquid oozing down from cracks in the basement walls, a phenomenon as disturbing as it is unexplainable. Though the house has sat empty for years, its reputation continues to grow. No one who walks by it can shake the feeling that they're being watched, or that something or someone still lingers inside. Some neighbors claim they hear whispers on the wind as they pass by. Others say they've seen lights flicker inside, though the electricity has long been disconnected. Whether it's the dark history or the strange occurrences reported by those who've been inside, the Chop Chop House remains a terrifying fixture in Boise, a place where the past refuses to stay buried. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and share the video. See you next time.